Skydiving Ghost Part 12. The Siege of High Tide Part 2. The world was ending again, but this time, it was a silent, suffocating crush. The air in Elena's inner sanctum felt like liquid lead, pinning me to the quartz floor. Leo lay beside me, his light a barely flickering ember, his face contorted in pain as Elena's hand reached for his chest. Outside, the screams of our allies faded into silence as the Echo Walker's chant solidified the air and the metal morphs transmuted flesh to cold ore. Elena's violet eyes gleamed with triumph as her fingers neared Leo. A fitting end, little brother. All the elements brought to heal, and the brightest spark of all, finally integrated. But something was stirring within me. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the furious, desperate gale I usually summoned. It was deeper, hotter, a pressure building not from the atmosphere around me but from within my very core. The Gravitykind's power, meant to crush me, was instead forcing something new to condense, to ignite. The flare. The moment the world ended, when the sun had lashed out and rewritten the rules. I had been closest. Not to the epicenter of some terrestrial explosion, but to the unfiltered raw solar energy that had washed over the planet. Everyone who had changed, the root keepers, the waterkin, the fireborn, the conduits, they hadn't just been touched by the elements. They were manifestations of the sun's essence, refracted through the lens of their environment. Elena, with her cold, calculating violet power, was also a hybrid. We all were. We just hadn't realized the original source. I wasn't merely aerial. I was solar. A blinding, golden light erupted from my chest, pushing back against the crushing gravity. It wasn't a flare of rage, it was a pure, steady burn. The mercury-skinned Gravitykin staggered backward, his hands flying to his eyes as if burned. His power, which had seemed absolute, now felt like a mere shadow against the burgeoning sun within me. "No," Elena whispered, her voice laced with genuine shock for the first time. "What is this? This isn't aerial." My form solidified, but it wasn't the misty gray or even the solid human. I glowed. A golden aura shimmered around me, pushing away the oppressive violet. Leo, released from the crushing force, gasped, his own blue light flaring brightly again, almost drawn to my new radiance. I stood, not as Jax the wind ghost but as Jax the conduit of the sun. The shattered quartz floor beneath me didn't crack. It glowed, absorbing and reflecting my light. "It's not just the elements, Elena," I said, my voice resonating with a power that vibrated through the very mountain. "It's the source. Every single one of us, we're all children of the flare." I extended my hand and a wave of pure, warming solar energy pulsed outward. It wasn't destructive. It was corrective. The Echo Walker's destructive hum faltered, her high-frequency vibrations neutralized by a harmonious counterfrequency of pure light. The fireborn, frozen into brittle shards, began to thaw, their internal fires rekindling with a clean, golden flame. The metal morphs shrieked as the leaden weight binding the root keepers melted, the roots returning to flexible wood, invigorated by the sudden burst of life-giving energy. The fighting outside ceased. A stunned silence fell over the mountain. Our allies, released from their unexpected prisons, looked at me, then at their own hands, seeing their powers not just restored but enhanced, bathed in a golden glow. Even Elena's loyal ironclads, caught in the aura, seemed to soften, their rigid forms relaxing, their internal violet lights dimming slightly. Elena stared at me, her face a mask of awe and something akin to fear. Her violet energy, which she believed was the ultimate manifestation of the flare, now seemed like a cold, artificial light compared to the warmth radiating from me. "You don't understand, Jax," she said, her voice lacking its usual cold authority. "I was trying to control it. To fix the chaos." "By replacing one chaos with another, Elena?" I replied, the golden light around me pulsating gently. "By turning us all into cogs in your machine? We are not just elements to be controlled. We are life. We are power. And we are all connected by the same sun that birthed us." The confrontation hung in the air, not as a battle but as a revelation. The war, the siege, the very need for conflict, it simply evaporated in the face of this shared origin. We were all hybrids. Elena, myself, Leo, the root keepers, the waterkin, the fireborn, the conduits, all expressions of the same primordial force. Elena slowly rose from her throne, her gaze shifting from me to her stunned army, then to the sky beyond the shattered observatory dome. The violet glow of her mountain, which had pulsed with menace, now seemed to soften, diffusing into the twilight. "Peace," she whispered, a single word that carried more weight than any war cry. The tension broke. The warring elements didn't embrace, but a fragile understanding settled. We had been fighting shadows of ourselves. We were all the sun. As the elemental army stood down, a collective gasp rippled through the gathered hybrids. Jax, Leo, Elena, Silas, Marina, Ignis, Thistlegate, we all looked up. High above the peak of high tide, cutting a silent, impossible path through the fading twilight, was a ship. It wasn't one of Elena's crude, repurposed airships, nor a forgotten relic of the flare's chaotic fallout. This was sleek, metallic, and impossibly fast. It was an old-world spaceship designed for the stars, and it was heading directly toward us. A trail of clean, white exhaust streaked across the darkening sky, a stark contrast to the elemental chaos below. It was too advanced, too pristine. It shouldn't exist. The world had just found a fragile piece. But something had just arrived, carrying echoes of a past, or a future, none of us had foreseen.